Revenge films.
I once had a wife and children, both of whom I treasured more than my own life, and I was really happy. But then my ex-wife started to act pretty strangely. This'll sound a little cliche, but she started to bring her phone to the bathroom. She also started sneaking downstairs to send secret messages to someone. And I'll be honest, it didn't take very long for me to wring the truth out of her. She apparently was very aware of her good looks and sexiness. She enjoyed the attention people gave her because of it.
I'm such a naughty girl, and I love being one.
I dare you to find a guy who wouldn't get a little mad at such a comment. Part of me thinks I'm lying when I say those words made me a bit angry. I feel like I should be furious. I told her I wanted a divorce, but she was already completely set on marrying that person she was cheating on me with. And her affirmative response was devastatingly quick to reach my ears. We fought through to the end over the custody of our child. And in the end, I lost the war. My ex won custody of both of our children. The same two children who were the most beautiful things in the world. And the fact that I wouldn't see them as much broke what was left of my heart. I loved them so much, and so I never failed to pay $1,000 of child support, vowing I was never going to let them go through any rough time. Later on, a little bird of misfortune told me that she'd married the person she'd been cheating on me with. And although I thought that that wouldn't break me in the slightest, it totally did. But we weren't together anymore. And as long as my kids were growing up well and strong, I wasn't going to say anything that could potentially harm them. Later on, I also met someone new, and after a nice relationship, went on marrying again. There have been times I felt terrible about my kids and how they were going on with their life without their daddy to be there for them. But my new life with my new wife was filled with happiness. However, for some reason, my new wife and I couldn't conceive any children. Try as we might, she just never got pregnant. Obviously, my current wife got worried and secretly went to a hospital to see if there was anything wrong with her, to which the answer was no. So naturally, she told me everything, and then urged me to go to the hospital too. That's when we discovered that more than 95% of my sperm cells were abnormal, and that getting a woman pregnant the conventional way was a biological impossibility. And that wasn't all. While I thought that this must have happened 4 or 5 years ago, I was told that the probability of that being the case was low, and instead claimed it was from when I was born. That's when a horrifying thought cut through my mind like a hot sword through a stick of soft butter. Then who are those kids? I had never even begun to think about that possibility. I begged this to just be a bad dream, a trick on my mind, a lie. But this was reality, and a professional had told me the truth, the cold, hard truth. I started to wonder what I should do after making this terrible discovery. And as I thought about it, the day to pay the monthly $1,000 had come before I knew it. In the end, I didn't pay the money, for the sole reason that I wanted to find out. I wanted to know if those kids were really my children, and that I was paying $1,000 to support my children. The next day, my ex-wife called me. What did she want, you ask? Why, to hurry along with the payments is what she wanted. Why wasn't I surprised? At first, the transaction was polite and well-mannered, but perhaps she became impatient with me for holding an indecisive attitude. Something inside her just snapped, and she started insulting me. That brought my blood to a boil, and I said, "Listen here, I went to the hospital the other day."
What does that have to do with anything, goddammit?
Explain to me why I'm infertile, but still have 2 loving children.
That's not a solid reason not to pay child support for your own kids. Hold on.
I'm freaking telling you that I literally cannot have any children biologically. And now I'm asking you so very kindly to tell me why there's this strange reality where I actually have 2 children of my own.
You just can't have any children with your wife right now because there's something wrong with her. That's why you're absolutely fine, or rather, you were when you got me pregnant, twice.
You think we didn't consider that possibility? Doctors ran tests on her, but found nothing wrong at all. But that's when I got tested, just to be sure. We found out it's physically impossible for me to have kids. It seemed like she was also a bit shook with this reality, but she didn't get too carried away. After a while, she said,
Listen, what does all this bullshit have anything to do with our original problem? We aren't together anymore, remember?
and she abruptly hung up the phone. The next day, my ex's current husband tried to contact me himself. My current wife was the one who answered the phone. "Your husband hasn't paid the child support yet, and my wife's acting really oddly. Is something going on or what? Without some financial support, we can't properly raise the children. If life becomes a lot more difficult to live, the house environment is destroyed in no time. And it's such a pity to raise two cute kids in a home that isn't exactly the picture-perfect idea of happy." That's what he said pretty much, and my wife interpreted that as, "Give us the money or your children will get it." Or something equally horrifying. Now, I gotta be brutally honest here. I literally jumped up from my seat at work and screamed at the top of my lungs when my wife told me this. They were such angels, even if they weren't related by blood. After talking it over with her, my wife and I decided to A, assume custody and all rights to raise them as our own children without letting the children themselves know what's going on. We wouldn't accept any child support, and we'd rather them pay palimonies in a periodic way. B, should they refuse our offer, we file a court case on grounds of absence of parentage and make them pay back the $4 million in child support we paid them over the months. After everything was decided, we hired a trusted lawyer, and with his help, went on to summon my ex and her current husband to discuss the matter and what to become of it. From the get-go, what her husband blurted from that big mouth of his was, "We ain't gonna lower the amount of child support by even a single frickin' cent, you hear?" His foolish laughing made me wonder if he was recovering psychopath or something. What did this bastard have that my ex dumped me for him anyway? We went straight to the point. You'll forgive me for being so direct and without any explanation, but we've come to demand custody of the children. I found my ex dumbfounded at that statement.
No, never! I'll never give them up to you.
Her husband was pretty surprised too. "Wait, hold on. You can't be serious here. Neither of you are related to either of those ankle biters? And even so, you put up such a fuss over the whole shenanigans with custody and child support and whatnot?" But then something seemed to dawn on him, because then he said, "Then who the hell is that child? I'm talking about my third son." This particular child is the alleged child of my ex with her current husband. If he made the connection that the two children I wanted custody of were not my own children, then perhaps a spark of doubt ignited within, suggesting the idea that his son might not be his son after all. And I can't blame him for suddenly doubting everything. As a way of mediating the argument that ensued between the two of them, I offered a total of $1 million as a palimony. My ex's husband jumped at the idea, hooked onto it, and never let go. But he also started studying me carefully, saying, "You know, I also raised those kids as though they were my own. No sensible parent would give up their children for a measly $1 million, wouldn't you agree?" I calmed my excited nerves before I replied, "I understand the feeling of loss you'll get when you think about losing your kids. I went through that, and I don't believe you'll find anyone who can relate to you this much miles around." He was satisfied, but my ex went into another panic tantrum, even more significant in magnitude than the previous. And it was a sight to see, let me tell you what. She literally got on her knees and begged me not to take the children.
Please, I beg you, leave the children with me. Please, please.
Imagine that on an endless loop, and that pretty much ruined all attempts to reason with her for that day. So we decided to call it until the next day. She was just so stubborn on keeping the children that it made me wonder if there was something she wasn't telling anyone. Some other reason behind the curtains that no one must know about. However, another surprise arrived at my doorstep just a few days later. My old father-in-law, my ex's father, contacted me, saying that he wanted to meet. Upon arriving where he told us to go, with our lawyer at our side, he started to beg, literally the exact moment he saw our faces. His wife did likewise as well. Naturally, something like this would not only have you curious, but it would make you frightened. What exactly could be so devastating to force both of my old in-laws on their knees, bowing at our feet? It didn't take long to understand what they wanted. It was to let them keep the children. Just as a precaution, I asked, "You seem to fully believe what I've told you, but have you not thought about the father of the two children?" The pair of them hung their heads. That was solid proof that my ex-wife was set on keeping the children, and that no amount of persuasion would change that. My spirits plummeted into the ground and started digging my grave once again. My old in-law suggested the solution of them paying back all the child support I deposited up until then, as well as an additional $5 million as a form of compensation. The authorities were apparently willing to settle for this particular solution. The only condition was that the children themselves remain ignorant about all of this, at least until then they were old enough to first understand everything and then proceed to comprehend it, as well as think about it with a calm, rational mentality. What concerned me the most was the behavior of my ex-wife. For example, I thought she really wanted to keep the children because she didn't want me to find out that she and the children were being abused or something like that. But it seems she just legitimately wanted to keep them, and that was all there was to it. What convinced me that this was the truth was that her parents offered to pay me $5 million in compensation, 5 times as much as I offered to pay her in exchange for the kids, in addition to paying back the whole $4 million or so in child support. My ex herself was bawling as she said,
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for everything I've done in the past. It was stupid of me to be so arrogant. I accept full responsibility. Just please don't take my children away from me, please. Please, I beg you. I'll do anything else, anything to meet whatever demands you have. Just please don't take them away.
You insulted me pretty brutally when I failed to pay the child support once. You won't see another penny from me again. How do you propose you provide the home they deserve?
I will find work. I'll turn myself into particles of broken bone and ripped flesh if I must. I'll work enough to provide for my darlings, and I will not accept another penny of child support from you ever again. Just please, forgive me. Don't take them away from me, please.
I had never seen anyone this selfless and so determined to do what's right for the good of whom she treasured. Keep in mind, I was once married to this woman and lived together with her. Her parents added, "We're terribly sorry about what our daughter did. We understand that there's nothing we can do to fully repay you for our mistakes. But please, on behalf of our daughter, we beg you not to take away her children. We may seem like untrustworthy folk, what with everything that's going on, but we swear to you, the children are worth more to us than life itself. We love them truly and deeply. We beg you, please reconsider." There was no conceivable way I could decide right then and there, but after discussing it thoroughly with my current wife and a lawyer, we decided to accept their proposition and bring the whole matter to a close. It was one of the hardest decisions I ever made because so much was influencing me. It was near impossible to come to a rational conclusion. However, these words from the children changed everything. "We want to stay with Mommy!" Poor souls were crying, goddammit! A quick glance at their clothes, their skin, and their overall physical appearance told me that there was nothing to worry about. Although they aren't my children by blood, they mean the world to me, and their happiness is what matters most. It's truly disappointing I won't always be by their side, seeing them grow big and strong. But now I know that my ex is willing to die a pitiful death for them, should there be no other alternative. And I'm confident they'll be safe and happy with her. Truly, I do. Later, I consulted doctors about my predicament with my current wife, and they informed me that although it would be pretty difficult to get her pregnant the regular way, if I underwent infertility treatment, the probability of improvement was substantial. And now I'm doing what I can with my loving wife beside me the whole way. The treatment was mentally challenging, but after 2 long years of continuous open communication and amazing teamwork with my wife, we were finally able to put a new, beautiful life inside her belly. When we found out she was pregnant, I pretty much tackled her in a hug, crying tears of joy. Now I have a new goal, to raise my child, this time my real child, by its side for all eternity.
How was today's video? If you enjoyed it, please subscribe, like, and leave a comment. Stay tuned for more.